10 years ago today, in the summer of 2016, Netflix premiered a series about a young boy in 1980s Indiana who rode his bike into the woods, never to be seen again. When his friends went out to look for him, they instead stumbled upon a strange little girl. Little did they know they changed television forever. This show didn't just become a hit, it defined a decade of streaming television and made Netflix what it is today. It turned unknown child actors into global superstars. It kickstarted a new era of 80s nostalgia and became a cross-generational pop culture phenomenon. And then...
Were you guys happy with the ending of each of your characters?
Mm-hmm.
We went into production without having a finished script for the finale.
For those of you who've been on this channel for years, you know why we're talking about this today. I am Mr. Strange, and on today's episode of Stranger Universe, we will go over the rise and fall of Stranger Things.
Stranger Things just debuted in July, but it's already got a fan base that spans generations.
If you were on the internet in 2016, you remember exactly where you were when you finished Season 1. I was at home with my best friend, fresh off playing Pokemon Go, and the FOMO hit so hard we stopped mid-game, sat down, and binged it in one sitting. That was Stranger Things. And that feeling, that communal moment where you had to be there, is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Season 1 is without a doubt the best season on the series. It was damn near perfect with little to no flaws. 8 episodes of tight narrative structure, where every character and subplot mattered. The vanishing of Will Byers, the Upside Down, the mystery surrounding Eleven, the shady government operations inside of Hawkins' lab, the entire cast of kids, teenagers, and adults slowly assembling into one throughout the course of the plot. It all wove together into something that felt fresh but familiar, like a song you'd never heard but somehow already knew. There is a reason why so many people over the years keep repeating that the show should have stopped right here as a mini-series, or become an anthology like The Twilight Zone. With that said, the Duffer Brothers always had plans to continue with this cast of characters, with their initial plan for Season 2 picking up 10 years later in the 90s when the kids are grown up already. This is because they were approaching their story like Stephen King's It, which also had the same premise. They were even considered to direct the 2017 reboot that also featured Finn Wolfhard. So from a certain point of view, they took matters into their own hands and wrote their own version of It that featured elements from other classics and 80s filmography. But of course, everyone fell in love with these particular characters and their talented actors. Beyond that, Season 1 set up mysteries and relationships that we wanted to see explored in future episodes. We wanted to see the kids again, and Netflix knew that they had a massive franchise on their hands. Season 2 immediately dropped a year later in October 2017. I remember getting super excited seeing the Super Bowl teaser that revealed our first glimpse at the villain we would later know as the Mind Flayer, while we got our first glimpse at Eleven being alive. The commercial ended with the exciting reveal that Season 2 would arrive on Halloween, a perfect release date considering how dark and scary this show was becoming and just how appropriate it is for the spookiest time of the year. With that said, Stranger Things as a whole was starting to change from this point on, for better and worse. Season 2 may have focused more on the horror elements and fleshing out the characters, but it had a bigger budget and a bigger scope. It had the notorious Lost Sister episode, which felt like a different show entirely, and broke the tension from the rest of the storyline up until that point. I don't want to beat on a dead horse, but this episode alone was a major red flag regarding the show's true franchise potential, since it was an obvious backdoor pilot that bombed so horribly they ignored it for the rest of the series until Season 5 when they finally brought Callie back into the spotlight. In general, storylines didn't land the way Season 1 did, but it expanded the world without losing the characters. The core group still felt like the core group, and the finale for many fans felt like a perfect stopping point as well. Eleven closed the gate to the Upside Down, blocking the Mind Flayer from spreading its reach into the real world. In the epilogue, we finally see the snowball that Mike mentioned in the previous season, and this time around, Eleven is there to dance with him as it was promised. This ending serves as an alternate one to Season 1, a happy ending for those who wanted to see Elle survive and have a happy life after the abuse and suffering she experienced throughout her life up until that point. Yes, the Mind Flayer is still alive in the Upside Down, but much like the ending of the first season, sometimes it's best to leave things up for interpretation. And at this point in the story, there are no more ties between both worlds. But then came Season 3 on July 4th, 2019. The date announcement half a year before on New Year's Eve is forever ingrained in my memory as one of the most hyped moments of my life. I binge-watched the entire season on its release day, taking breaks every now and then to celebrate the holiday at the beach and watching fireworks at night with the family. At this point, the show became a summer blockbuster, and they made sure to spend a lot on the ads and cross-promotional material. The Starcourt Mall setting allowed for multiple product placements, and the Duffers decided to heavily lean into the fan service. Steve and Dustin's friendship became the heart of the show in Season 2, so the creators decided to give the duo their own major subplot with newcomer Robin Buckley. And the Russian storyline, while messy and corny, gave us Hopper's death, which, come on, we all knew wasn't real, but it still hit us in the feels. But unfortunately, the cracks were really starting to show. The show has gone too big, the tone has gone all over the place between being a horror story, a coming-of-age tale, and now an 80s action comedy with teen romance and Cold War paranoia with a Russian Terminator. Even though Season 3 is a guilty pleasure for me, a lot of fans considered it the worst one until Season 5 came out. For casual audiences, the show was becoming a parody of itself, and little did we know, the kids were growing up fast. A show built on the innocence of childhood was about to hit the wall that every version of this story hits. You can't stay 12 forever. The monsters were getting bigger, the stakes were getting higher, and the charm of kids on bikes was starting to strain against the weight of an epic sci-fi war story. Season 4 was going to have to make a choice. The show wasn't awful, there was still time to turn things around, but the pressure was on. 3 months later, Stranger Things 4 was officially announced with the now famous tagline, "We are not in Hawkins anymore." Months would pass by until we got a surprise teaser on Valentine's Day in 2020, officially confirming that Hopper was alive and well in Russia. Even though the season just started production in Lithuania, there was hope and speculation that the show would return at the end of the year if they had the time to release a sneak peek already. After all, Season 3 ended on the promise that Mike and Eleven would see each other for the holidays, so it just made perfect sense. How exciting it could have been to see Stranger Things 4 on Christmas. Little did we know, the world as we know it would change forever a few weeks later. You know what happened? Thanks to the pandemic, filming was postponed, and we waited 3 years for the long-awaited return to Hawkins. During the lead up to Season 4, there was a lot of doubt and concern. The initial hype had faded away, and people really started to notice the flaws in the previous seasons, especially the goofiness and character issues that many saw in Season 3. At this point, people started to make fun of the kids being way older, that their characters and the sentiment of Stranger Things needing to stay as a miniseries started to appear on social media and online conversations. Even though the future seemed uncertain, Season 4 finally arrived in May 2022, split into 2 volumes, nearly 13 hours total, and episodes longer than most movies. And for a lot of people, this was the peak of Stranger Things. Season 4 introduced Vecna, the Creel House, 4 different locations with their own storylines, all of which had different critical reception, but mostly well received. The Duffers went big, and for the most part, it worked. The triple plot twist that Henry Creel, One, and Vecna were all the same person. That was a structural masterstroke that retroactively connected the entire series. And then the show created the summer of Running Up That Hill. Kate Bush hit #1 on Spotify, Apple Music, and the Billboard charts. Nearly 40 years after it came out, it was the single biggest music moment in television history, and it happened because the Duffers understood the assignment. The right song in the right scene doesn't just enhance emotion, it becomes the emotion. But Season 4 also had cracks. The episode runtimes were too long. The finale was 2.5 hours. The Russia subplot with Hopper and Joyce felt like a different show stitched onto the main storyline. And above all, the cast had outgrown their characters. When you have 20-year-olds playing freshmen in a story about childhood where we all saw them start as 12-year-olds playing 12-year-olds, the magic starts to fade. And then came the wait, 3.5 years between Seasons 4 and 5, on top of the other 3 years between Seasons 3 and 4. 3 years of fan theories, rumors, set leaks, and the Duffers promising the answers to every mystery and the ultimate resolution for our heroes. In some way, the hype machine was working, but a lot of red flags were already spotted. The show was abandoning the apocalyptic cliffhanger of season 4, and a bunch of new characters were being added once more, despite the Duffers publicly promising otherwise. After months of silence, Netflix announced the triple epic holiday release dates for the final season, and marketing started to ramp up. Target stores were invaded across the country, commercials with multiple brands, and a global press tour leading up to the premiere. And at long last, Stranger Things returned on Thanksgiving, but it fell apart. The issue with Season 5 was the same problem that had been building since Season 3. The show got so big it forgot how to be small. Season 1 worked because it was small. It was 4 kids on bikes, a missing boy, a monster hiding behind the trees. That smallness is what made it feel real. Season 5 had military subplots, introduced more characters, and left half its storylines completely unresolved by the finale. Not open-ended, not intentionally ambiguous, just unfinished. And then there was the deal with the kids. Watching 23-year-olds play high schoolers in the final season broke the spell in a way no amount of great performance could fix. The Duffers knew it too. It's why they abandoned the ending of season 4. Because picking up right there with that final shot on the field would have looked ridiculous with everyone looking older than they were just minutes ago. It was a lose-lose situation they created for themselves. And then there was the problem with 11. Her fate was left entirely ambiguous. Did she die? Did she escape? The show wants you to decide. The Duffer brothers designed her ending this way to spark conversation. But instead, it punishes a character who carried this show for a decade. 11's entire arc was about finding a home, having a family, and learning to live a normal human life, and the ending gave her none of that with any certainty. The tragedy of Stranger Things. Season 5 isn't that it was bad, it's that it was almost great, and they left it on the table. Maybe a movie fixes it, maybe it doesn't. But as it stands, this is not the ending the show deserved. So where does that leave us? Here's the thing about Stranger Things. It doesn't matter how season 5 ended. Not really. Because what this show did to popular culture can't be undone by a disappointing finale. Before Stranger Things, Netflix was still proving itself. Streaming was still an experiment. And the idea that a show with no stars, no established IP, and a cast of unknown kids could become a cultural event. Nobody believed that was possible, but Stranger Things proved it was. It made the 80s feel cool to a generation that never lived them. It launched the careers of Millie Bobby Brown, Sadie Sink, David Harbour, people who are now household names. The Duffer Brothers went from unknown directors to having a multi-million-dollar deal with Paramount, and maybe most importantly, it proved that genre storytelling, horror, sci-fi, the weird, and the unexplained belonged in the mainstream conversation. It opened the door for everything that came after it. That's a legacy. That's real. Whatever you think about the ending, that doesn't disappear. But there's one more thing Stranger Things gave us, and it's personal. It gave this channel a reason to exist. I started this channel because of Stranger Things, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. The Upside Down, the Mind Flayer, Henry Creel, the theories, the hidden details, the questions that never got answered. Every little detail leaked through set photos and videos during the productions of the last 2 seasons had my mind racing with thoughts and emotions, and I had to share that with all of you. That obsession built everything you see here, and now the show is over. So what happens next? Here's what I've been thinking. The thing I love about Stranger Things was never really about Hawkins. It was about the mystery underneath, the hidden world. The idea that reality is stranger than we think, that somewhere, just beyond what we can see, something else is going on. That feeling, that exists everywhere. It's in the lore of Severance, in the darkest corners of the Harry Potter universe, in the mysteries nobody ever solved in Widow's Bay, in the eerie questions underneath franchises we've been watching our whole lives without ever asking the right questions. That's where this channel is going. Same obsession, same deep dives. Because Stranger Things taught us one thing above everything else. The best stories are the ones with something hidden underneath, something waiting to be found, and we're just getting started. If you're new here, stick around and subscribe. We're just getting started. If you've been here from the beginning, honestly, thank you. You didn't have to stay, but you did, and it means everything. Now let's go find something strange, and I'll see you in the next one. Leave a comment if you want to get a shout out on our next video. I am Mr. Strange, and this is Stranger Universe. Over and out.